The story of the legend of betel, areca and lime. Once upon a time, there was a family in which Tan and Lang were biological relatives. In particular, their bodies and faces were exactly the same, so much so that the family members were often confused. Their father was the tallest man in the region, who was once summoned to Fong Chao by King Hung to reward him and named him Sao. From then on, the family took Sao as their family name. When the two brothers grew up, their parents passed away one after another. Both you and I are attached to each other and refuse to leave even half a step. Before his father died, he entrusted Tan to a Taoist named Lu. But when Tan came to study, Lang refused to stay home alone. He also tried to ask to study with him. The Lu family has a daughter who is the same age as them. To find out who is the older brother and who is the younger sister, one day the girl named Lu came up with a little trick. While they were hungry, she only served them a bowl of porridge with a pair of chopsticks. Standing behind the wall, she saw this person giving porridge to the other person to eat. She muttered, "Ah, so that funny guy is you." From then on, Tan and the girl had many meetings. The love between two people grows closer every day. Seeing that, the Taoist surnamed Lu happily married his daughter to Tan. After getting married, the couple moved to a new house, with Lang living together. Since the day they got married, Tan still pampered her but did not caress her like before. In the past, Lang was often taken care of by him, but now he has many lonely days. Lang noticed that many times Tan wanted to hide himself. "That's right, he loved his wife and forgot about me." Lang's heart was filled with boredom and sadness. One day, Lang and Tan went to the fields together and didn't return until late at night. Lang left first. As soon as he put his foot on the threshold, Tan's wife left. In the room, he ran out and hugged her. Lang cried out. His sister-in-law's mistake made both of them feel awkward and embarrassed. At that moment, Tan entered the house. From here, Lang learned about a new trait of his brother. Tan was jealous of his brother. The jealousy increased Tan's indifference towards him. Lang was both angry and embarrassed. He wanted to leave home to be hated. One day, it was just dawn, Lang decided to depart. He kept going. He followed the trail forever, filled with resentment and resentment. Walking for a few days, Lang reached the bank of a large river. Seeing the water flowing rapidly, he felt shy. Not a single sound of a rooster crowing or a dog could be heard around. Barked. But Lang refused to return. Lang sat down on the shore, covering his face and crying. He cried and cried and cried, so much so that the birds looking for food at night could still hear their sobs. The next morning, Lang pointed out still a soulless body. He turned to stone. Tan saw that I was lost and at first he didn't notice. After a long time, he still did not see her return. Tan Bo went to look for familiar houses but could not find any sign of her. Knowing that she left because she was angry with him, he regretted it. The next day, when he didn't come home, Tan panicked and left his wife at home and set out to look for her. After a few days, he reached the bank of a wide river. There was no way to get across. Tan walked along the river and finally saw her turned into stone. Tan stood next to the rock and cried until there was only the sound of water rushing under the shore. Tan died and turned into a tree trunk growing straight into the sky, next to the rock. Tan's wife waited forever but did not see her husband return, so she left home to look for him. But in the end, the river also blocked her steps. The woman sat next to the tree, crying her eyes out. And then she died and turned into a rope that wrapped around the other tree. After waiting for a long time, the three people did not return, so the Taoist couple asked everyone to divide their search. In front of the stone and two strange trees, they could only build a shrine to worship all three young people on the riverside. People around the area called it the Temple of Harmony between brothers and loyal spouses. Later, one year the weather caused a very severe drought. All plants are withered. Only two trees growing next to the stone in front of the temple are still green. Everyone thinks it's strange. King Hung one day visited that country. When passing in front of the temple, the king was a little surprised by the strange sight of strange trees. What god does this temple worship? Have I never seen these types of trees before? To answer the king's question, General Lack called a few old people from around the area to ask. The more Hung Vong listened, he couldn't help but feel moved. The king drew leaves and climbed up to look everywhere. Then, the king sent a man to climb the tree and pick the fruit down to taste it. The acrid taste is not unusual. But when chewing with the vine leaves, a strange taste came to the tip of the tongue. It was both sweet and spicy. Suddenly, a mandarin cried out, "Oh my God! Blood!" Everyone widened in surprise. It turned out that the fruit and leaf chewing grounds of those two plants, once spit on the rocks, suddenly turned red like blood. The king ordered all three things to be chewed together, and suddenly his body felt hot as if he were drunk. His lips were bright red and his face was rosy and beautiful. The king said, "What a strange thing. That's right, they are." Their love was so passionate and red. From then on, King Hung ordered everywhere to breed more of those two types of trees. What is worth noting is that the king's law requires that when getting married, boys and girls must find three things. And lime for everyone to chew and spit a little to remember that love will never fade. That's why since then the Vietnamese people have had this custom. 3. Cu Di 1. In Linh Nam Chich Ki as well as in some other books copying ancient stories, there is no mention of the outcome of the episode. The two brothers are exactly alike. We feel that this is probably a mistake on the part of the person who wrote the story, so here we rely on the book Love History of Vietnam. Tan's jealousy was the cause of Lang leaving home and also the consequence of the two brothers being so similar that it confused many people. 2. Also according to Linh Nam Chich Ki, Lang died and turned into an areca tree, Tan turned into a stone and Tan's wife turned into a betel tree. Here we follow the book History of the South, which records that Lang turned into a stone. Transforming into an areca tree are images with a more reasonable relationship. On this point we agree with Tran Ton Mai's opinion in understanding and analyzing Vietnamese fairy tales. Particularly the book My Am Essays. Although he also told the same story as Su Nam, he believed that he had to wait until after burying all three, before being transformed by heaven. This same book also tells some slightly different details, especially at the end. The two brothers Tan and Lang are as alike as a statue. The older they get, the more they resemble and love each other, never leaving even half a step wherever they go. That made Tan's wife Lu Ti confused many times and very embarrassed. Lang was afraid something bad would happen, so he asked him to live alone, but he wouldn't let him. One day Lang left home and went to the mountains, intending to live secretly here, but was exposed to wind and frost, so he died next to the forest, and was buried in a grave by the locals. Not seeing her return, Tan left home to look for her. When Tan came here, the villagers were initially scared, thinking the dead had appeared, because they looked like dead people. When he heard that his younger brother had died, Tan fainted and died as well. Local people buried him next to his brother's grave. Ti Lu also left home to look for her. When she came here, she heard that her husband and brother-in-law had both died, so she hugged the grave and cried forever. Then she also died and was buried next to her. Their actions touched heaven. God let you turn into stone, signifying purity. I turned into an areca tree, honest and independent, opening my heart for everyone to see. Lu Ti turned into a betel tree, spicy fragrant almond. The following paragraph talks about King Hung as mentioned above. 3. Also according to Truck Key, the book quoted, the current temple worshipping three people is Tam Quang Temple in Nam Hua Village, Nam Dan District, Nguyen, which feudal dynasties still have conferred conferments on. Dong some stories in Nguyen also have a story about the accumulation of betel, areca and lime, with a different content from the above stories. A man had 9 daughters who went together to hoe mulberry grass. Tired at noon, the sisters joked with each other, "If only someone could hoe for me, I would marry them." Hearing that, a demon appeared and said, "If that's the case, then close your eyes and I'll help you." Sure enough, when they opened their eyes, they all saw that the mulberry tree had been hoed clean. The devil brought 9 girls back and ate the 8th girl in turn. The youngest girl, Kam Zan, was so scared that she ran away. A flock of wild chickens said, "If you want to live, go down into the yam hole." When she got down, the chicken broke off the leaves so the ghost couldn't find her. When the devil left, the chicken told her to continue climbing, and whenever she met someone, ask for directions and they would show her. A fairy appeared and told her to keep following the rope to the top. When we arrived, it turned out to be the underworld. There are also houses with fields and gardens here. A man named Inverted Guy married her. He specializes in making rain on Earth, but because he has a wife, he forgets his responsibilities and doesn't leave the house for 3 months, so the Earth's fields dry up and people cry everywhere. After that, he had to say goodbye to his wife and go out to work, telling her to always stay at home and not to listen to anyone who invites her to go anywhere. At home, the 2 ex-wives of the backward guy came to invite, "Do you want to watch elephants fight? Are not? No. Do you want to watch a fight in the mirror? No. Do you want to see your grandparents? Since I returned to my husband's house, I still don't know the faces of my grandparents, please let me go." Upon arriving, Kam Zan only saw 2 huge dragons. He was so scared that he ran back, eyes always closed. When her husband came home and found out about it, she had to return Kam Zan to death. When he got there, he still saw his wife's eyes closed, so her husband said, "Okay, we're here. Let's say goodbye here. Whenever you're in trouble, call me and I'll come." Kam Zan was walking along the riverbank when he met Mr. Nook. Mr. Water again persuaded her to marry her. The love affair was smooth, only the father-in-law did not like the daughter-in-law. One day her father-in-law told his daughter-in-law to go catch fish in the river. Kamzan could not catch him. She went to the riverbank and called her ex-husband's name. The upside guy came up and said, "If you want to catch fish in the river, you should wake up in the morning and catch it, but you must tell everyone that if anyone sees a strange tree, don't touch it. In the morning, I saw a large tree lying across the river, but the river basin there was shallow and there were a lot of fish." Kamzan and everyone raced to catch it. The father-in-law saw something strange and also went out to look. Seeing the strange wood, he took an iron stick and stabbed it. "I didn't expect it to be the upside-down guy." Wounded, the backward guy, a tree, floated up, the water rushed into the abyss, and most of the people who went fishing drowned. Her father-in-law blamed her daughter-in-law for killing the people. Kamzan went to the wharf, sat down and cried, then used fire to burn a tree to warm himself. "After burning for a while, I suddenly saw that the fire was not wood but the burning man." Kamzan felt so sorry for him that he jumped into the fire. When Mr. Nook came home, seeing that, he also jumped into the fire. This episode is similar to the ending of the story The Legend of Mr. Do Rao. No. 21. Father-in-law buried each person in a grave. Later the tree turned into an areca tree. Kamzan turned into a betel tree and climbed up an areca tree. Mr. Water turned into limestone. My father-in-law took areca nuts and ate them with betel. He spit the water on the rock and saw that the water was flat red, so he picked it up and ate it to relieve his troubles. From then on, there was the custom of chewing betel. 4. The Ca2 people, in the west of Quang Nam and Thua Thien provinces, have a story about the accumulation of betel, areca nut and lime. Although it is different from our story, the ending image is somewhat similar. A woman, the old man married one of his 10 daughters to the snake man to repay the favor. Staying with the snake, the girl gave birth to a child. One day, because of her sister's instigation, she was stabbed by a snake's teeth and died immediately. The mandarin's robe floated down the stream and into Mr. Na's net, which he saved and brought back to life. Mr. Na married her, gave birth to a child, but has not yet had a wedding ceremony. On the wedding day, Mr. Snake attended. A fierce war took place between Snake and Mr. Na. The girl took a packet of medicine from the forest, wrapped it into packets, and prepared to throw them to both sides to apply to heal the wound. Throw it to the snake. Unexpectedly the snake turns into an areca tree. Throwing it and hitting Mr. Na turned into a stone. She was so sorry that she stood on a rock and hugged an areca tree, but it turned into a betel tree, the root growing on the rock, and the top climbing on the areca tree. The story also tells that the 2 children of Snake and Mr. Na came to pick up the 3rd packet of medicine and turned it into a mortar and pestle to pound betel. The villagers ran to see it, and it also turned into vegetarian plants. There was a Ko-Rua, sitting woman, who shoveled cloves over there, saw that the plant was interesting, so she picked betel leaves to eat with areca nuts and then spit water on the rocks, whitening to red. She took betel, lime and vegetarian food together. Suddenly her lips turned red and she became more beautiful. When the king heard the news, he asked her to return to court. Seeing her beauty, he made her queen. Listening to her words, the king sent soldiers to dig up the betel and areca trees to bring them back, but no matter how many betel trees were dug, more and more were and areca trees grew, never running out of varieties. Thai people also have a story about lover turning into a betel nut, talking about 3 friends. Study, including a girl pretending to be a boy who ended up turning into betel and areca nut and lime. This story has a completely different motif from the above stories. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.